Atlanta Hawks versus New York Knicks series preview. Let's get right into it. Okay, first, I think I need to go over the lineups that I think that each team is gonna play. And for the Knicks, they're gonna start the regular starters. Alfred Payton. I think they're gonna start Alfred Payton. I don't think they just changed it up last second. Alfred Payton, R.J. Barrett, Reggie Bullock, Julius Randle, Nerlens Noel. That's gonna be their starting five, and I'm assuming they're gonna run an eight-man with Alec Burks, Derrick Rose, and Taj Gibson off the bench. If they try and switch it up, or actually cause okay, the last game of the season, they needed to win that game against the Celtics. They played Obi Toppin 10 minutes, and they played Emmanuel Quickly 14 minutes. Now I do see a scenario where Thibodeau does what Eric Spoelstra did, last playoff series last year, where they just didn't play Kendrick Nunn at all. Or did they play him in the finals? I don't know. But pretty much Kendrick Nunn during most of the playoffs was not playing. I think they might do that. And then the rotation on the Hawks side, I think it's going to be starters Trae Young, Bogdan, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and Clint Capella. Now, I think that DeAndre Hunter's a big maybe for starting because he has not been playing good as of recently, but, he's still coming back from injury, and he had a 6-day resting period. And I think off the bench, Lou Will, Kevin Herter, Tony Snell, and Danilo Gallinari. I think he's going to run a 9-man rotation. He might play Onyeka, but I don't think I think Onyeka's going to play a maximum of 10 minutes, I think, personally, in my opinion, Onyeka, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, I think Onyeka's the best matchup for Randall. It's just that, he's a big fouler. If Julius Randle can really draw fouls from Onyeka, it's going to be a big problem. And then when we go into individual matchups of Hawks versus Knicks, I think the Hawks really outmatch them because, Trae Young's better than Alfred Payton. I think Bogdan and RJ Barrett are around the same skill level. DeAndre Hunter's better than Reggie Bullock. Randall's obviously better than Collins. And, Capella's way better than Nerlens Noel. Actually, even though that's kind of discrediting Nerlens Noel, he's actually really good. And then the bench-wise, I think it's pretty even in my opinion. The only thing that scares me for the Hawks side is that we get, last year's Lou Will, who was terrible in the playoffs. And I don't know the last time we've seen Taj Gibson in the playoffs. I don't know how much he's going to be utilized or how good he... Honestly, recently, he's been better. He's been really good, and he's been ending games, I think, for the Knicks. So that's going to be... I don't know what's going to happen there. But I think, the Hawks' biggest weakness right now is we have no one to stop Randall. So I don't know how many minutes Taj Gibson is going to get. Is he going to run the 5 with Randall at the 4? Because, no one can stop. I think the closest person who can stop Randall, besides Onyeka, who's not going to get any minutes, is DeAndre Hunter. The only thing is, we'd have to run DeAndre Hunter, with Capella. Because DeAndre Hunter, he's not that strong. I think Randall could easily body him. But if we can at least stop Randall from taking outside jump shots and force him to go inside on Clint Capella, I think that's a huge win for the Atlanta Hawks. And by the way, I'm kind of just going all over the place. I'm not really talking about anything in any kind of order. It's just if I think of something, I'm going to say it. I probably should have, thought this out more, but I might do that in my next video if I do another different series preview. I'm just doing this preview because I'm a Hawks fan, so I'm really into this series. And I'm not sure if I might be able to. The only thing is, if I make a video tomorrow, it's going to be hard because I just got my vaccine today. Hopefully, I'm not too out of energy. I also need to mention that the Knicks have an advantage in a huge way, not only because, the Madison Square Garden atmosphere and how the Knicks have more home games than the Hawks, but the Knicks are, I think, just now allowing double as many fans as the Hawks are. I'm pretty sure the Hawks are allowing 7,000 fans. Meanwhile, the Madison Square Garden is allowing 15,000 or 14,000 or something like that. Absolutely crazy. The New York Knicks are 3-0 against the Atlanta Hawks so far this season, which there are so many different circumstances that affect that. The first 2 games were under Lloyd Pierce, who is a terrible coach. We've had way more injuries than they've had. Not to say that the Knicks haven't had any injuries this season, but they have had a lot less than the Hawks this season. The first game against the New York Knicks for the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young was going through a massive slump, and I made a video on that actually did pretty good. It was about how the words of Steve Nash, when Steve Nash said it's not real basketball. Right after Steve Nash said that, Trae Young went on a terrible I don't think it was a losing streak, but he himself played very, very badly for the next 5 or 6 games before he got a hold of himself. Next, I'm going to talk about some advantages that the Knicks have, and then right after that, I'm going to talk about the advantages that the Hawks have. First thing I have for the Knicks are the easily better defensive team. Even though I'll talk about the Hawks later about the defense, but pretty much the Knicks, they ended with the 3rd or 4th best defense in the league. They have a great defensive coach in Tom Thibodeau. The Knicks are actually a very really, really good 3-point shooting team, which is really scary when you have Julius Randle pretty much isoing John Collins or whoever's guarding him, and no one's really going to stop Julius Randle on the Hawks. I think they could slow them down, but definitely not stop. And I don't think anyone can really help. I mean, they have so many 40-point shooters. They have Alec Burks, Julius Randle, technically Frank Ntilikina. I mean, if you want to count as 1.5 a game, Derrick Rose, Reggie Bullock, R.J. Barrett, Kevin Knox. He's not going to get minutes, but he's near 40%. Quickly, he's near 39%. Austin River. Wait, no, he's not on the team anymore. I mean, the only person that you can really sag off of is obviously, Taj Gibson, Nerlens Noel, and Elfrid Payton. I'm definitely confident with Elfrid Payton taking threes if I'm the Atlanta Hawks. The Knicks are already playing at the slowest pace of basketball in the league, and I just think that actually really helps them when it comes to playoff time, because playoff time, the game will be slowed down, and these, veterans, also the Knicks are a lot older than the Hawks, for sure. I mean, besides, like, Gallinari, but I think Gallinari's the only old person on the Hawks that's going to play. Yeah, like the game's going to slow down, and the Knicks have already been playing at such a slow pace. They'll be ready for that. The Hawks might want to, rush possessions in the clutch time. Now let me talk about what the Hawks have advantages on the Knicks, and trust me, there's a lot more to say than what the Knicks had on the Hawks. Because really, the Knicks just have defense. If we're being honest, they have defense. I think they probably want to win this more. They have more fans who gives better home court advantage. But let's get straight to it. I mean, the Hawks, to start off, have more talent overall. I mean, in my opinion, the Hawks have 8 different players that can score 20 on any given night. Trae Young, Bogdan, DeAndre Hunter, when healthy, was doing this. Hopefully he, can do this for the playoffs. So maybe I might just lower it down to 7. John Collins, Clint Capella had a lot of 20-point games. Lou Will can get really hot. Hopefully not like last year's playoffs. Kevin Huerter, either ice cold or really hot. Trust me, I've watched too many games to know that. Danilo Gallinari. That's 7 or 8 different players that can get 20 on any night. Personally, on the Knicks, I think that can be, D Rose, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, and Alec Burks. Outside of those players, I mean, I guess maybe Emmanuel Quickly. I think the Hawks have the advantage on that. Hawks shoot better from the floor against the Knicks. They have more free throws attempted than the Knicks, obviously a higher free throw percentage than the Knicks. Hawks average 1 whole entire offensive rebound than the Knicks. I mean, I don't know how much this will matter if the Hawks decide to go small, which is another advantage that the Hawks have over the Knicks. I think the Hawks can more easily go small over the Knicks, as Julius Randle's only played about 4% of his playing time at center. So if they ever wanted to play Julius Randle at center, I don't think they ever play Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin played about like 3% of his minutes at center. But if they want to go small, they'd have to put Randle at the center, and they have not practiced that very much. Meanwhile, half of the Hawks games, honestly, in crunch time, they either play Gallinari at the 5 or Collins at the 5, and then the other half of games, they keep Capella at the 5. Also, the Knicks are known for their defense, but Hawks have a couple players where defense really doesn't matter to them, and it's all really about user error, like Bogdan Bogdanovic, Danilo Gallinari, Lou Will. I wouldn't even say Trae Young. Trae Young, with a good contest, isn't making it, but I feel like those 3 players that I named that are like pure shooters or mid-range shooters, your contest doesn't matter too much. I'll be honest with you. It just matters because they practice those contested shots. Also, the Atlanta Hawks, they've been the Atlanta Hawks the entire year, but we have had a coach change in the middle of the season, and we've been significantly better. Our record has been so much better with this coaching change, where we might have the same record, but I feel like the Hawks have more momentum from the last 2 or 3 months than the Knicks do. While the Hawks are actually 3rd worst in fast break points, the New York Knicks are 1st, so that's kind of like the worst, first as in the worst team on fast breaks is the New York Knicks. That's just, I don't know, it's an interesting stat. I just wanted to point it out. So those have been the advantages and disadvantages of each team. Next, I'm going to say what I think each team should game plan or do to beat the other team, and then after that, I'm going to give my final opinion on who I think is going to win, in how many games, and why, blah, blah, blah. How I think the Hawks can beat the Knicks, I think it's pretty simple, okay? You've got one guy on the Knicks that plays like 30-plus minutes a game that does not do a thing on offense. At least from what I've seen, all he does is sit in the corner and wait there, and that's Reggie Bullock. And I think you just need to put Trae Young on him so Trae Young can rest during defense. And if Reggie Bullock is what beats the Hawks, then I think the Hawks can live with that. I'm going to be honest. And then offensively, I think what you need to do, you really need to push Julius Randle defensively. I think every single possession you need to be attacking Julius Randle. I'm not saying anything like injure or anything. Obviously, I don't want to see that. But I want him to be overworked so that on offense he's not as good, or even for him to foul out. If Julius Randle could foul out like 2 games, I think the Hawks could easily win this. I really think just in the clutch time, I think the Hawks do need to go small ball, because the Knicks probably won't be as familiar with small ball. That's just, if the Hawks don't go small ball, I mean, Clint Capella is a better player than Nerlens Noel, so I don't really mind it too much. But yeah, how I think that the Knicks should beat the Hawks, I really think that Julius Randle, he just needs to do everything on offense. Like I think Julius Randle for them to beat the Hawks, he needs to play 44 minutes a game. And I know that's definitely not ideal, especially if the game goes like 6 or 7. By game 6 or 7, he's gonna be extremely tired. And if they go to the second round, then he would have played what? That's 40 times 7, 280 minutes. Before going into a whole nother series against a whole tougher team physically, because the Hawks will not physically demand that much from Julius Randle. Also, I think you need to not play Alfred Payton. Alfred Payton, he's cool and all, but with Reggie Bullock and you have Alfred Payton on the court at the same time, I just think that's two easy players that that can just rest on defense for Trae Young or for Bogdan if Bogdan's playing better than Trae Young. I just think. So a player like Derrick Rose needs to play at least 35 minutes, or even Alec Burks, or even Frank Ntilikina. Okay, Frank Ntilikina is a better defender from what I've seen than Alfred Payton. And Frank Ntilikina, if he's going to sit in the corner, he's at least a way better 3-point shooter than Alfred Payton. I just think Frank Ntilikina needs to play. I don't want him to play as a Hawks fan, or even Emmanuel quickly in the last couple games versus the Hawks has given the Hawks work. I mean, he is a rookie. Do you want to play a rookie in playoff time? I don't really know. Especially in clutch time, even if Emmanuel quickly has been playing good, will he make the right decision? We really don't know. But yeah, and then Tom Thibodeau definitely needs to out coach Nate McMillan, because if Nate McMillan out coaches Tom Thibodeau, there's no way the Knicks can win. I'm just gonna say that right now. But my final prediction, I think it's gonna be Hawks in 6, maybe 7. I think I'm gonna say 6, and the reason is the Hawks, they just have so much more talent, and we have very streaky players, right? So players are either really good or really bad. If those really bad players are out, we have players on the bench who will probably end up being really good, and we can just play them. Also, I think Nate McMillan might realize that Onyeka Okongwu is actually a great, as long as he doesn't foul, a great defensive stopper for Julius Randle. And if we decide to utilize him, yeah, I think for sure the Hawks in 6. I mean, think what you want. I think I've given some good points for the Hawks and the Knicks. Comment down below what you think, who's going to win. And like the video for the algorithm. Subscribe to see more videos because, my videos are just great. And yeah, peace.